Good morning, Bucknutters. It's Tuesday, May 5th, 2015. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5-ish. Usually, Thursdays are reserved for 24/7 Sports Director of Recruiting Steve Wiltfong. He is headed out of town later this week, so Steve will join us today. Make sure we get our Wiltfong fix in for the week. Want to also let you know that we had a tremendous conversation last night with an NFL personnel source, so the boarding house will be packed with information on the guys that were drafted and the Buckeyes that could dot the first round next year for the rest of the week. So make sure you are signed up for a premium membership if you haven't already, so you can get with the boarding house and get all the inside information. Now, recruiting wisdom from the one and only Steve Wiltfong.
As promised, we are now joined by Steve Wiltfong, Director of Recruiting for 24/7 Sports. Though you can't see this, this is the least tan Steve will be in quite some time. Steve and his beautiful wife are headed to Costa Rica. Is that right?
We are indeed. Be on the airplane early in the morning tomorrow. Cell phone will be off for several days, and looking forward to cocktails and cigars and good company for a few days. But excited to be on the Bucknuts Morning 5 as always. This is one of my favorite parts of the week, so we had to get it in.
So you're telling me there's no five-star recruits in Costa Rica?
I mean, maybe there's an untapped player. Maybe I'll run into a 6'5", 240-pound young man that's playing soccer.
See, that's the commitment you get from Steve Wiltfong, people. He will unearth the next dominant defensive lineman or outside linebacker for Ohio State. But we digress. Steve, wanted to talk to you about, we've had discussions about this off the air for a couple days and even longer. And I want to start the conversation by talking about wide receiver Donnie Corley out of the Michigan recruiting pool. Very highly coveted wide receiver. I know Ohio State had him here on campus, but this could be a sign of a growing threat to Ohio State. Kind of break down where the Donnie Corley recruitment is and how you see things going for him in the near future here.
Well, Michigan State was the early odds-on favorite and quickly racked up a bunch of crystal ball forecasts, including my own. And one thing I didn't realize until probably about a month ago was that Ohio State was actually the early leader for Donnie Corley. Now, he wasn't publicly naming leaders and still hasn't. But, talking to people close to the top 100 receiver out of Detroit King, a kid that we invited to the U.S. Army All-America Bowl on Sunday, also got invited to the opening, so it was a hell of a day for Donnie. Ohio State was the team to beat early, and there's absolutely no question that they're still high on his list. Coach Combs has made it his mission to go into Detroit and really be a thorn in the side of Michigan and Michigan State for the elite talent in the state. And I think Ohio State still has a shot to get Donnie Corley. I do think Michigan State is the leader now, and that is talking to people close to Donnie. I do think Michigan State's in great position. Notre Dame's another school that is definitely high on the list. With the his parents really like Notre Dame. So those are three schools that have a very real shot of landing Donnie Corley. But in addition to Donnie Corley, his teammate Lavert Hill, a top 247 cornerback, he's another young man. He's committed to Penn State right now, but he is absolutely very high on Ohio State at one point in the process, too. And I'm not sure if that's one where they could or couldn't get back into. I mean, Lavert's saying he's solid to Penn State, just took a visit out there in April after taking a visit to Michigan. And he says he's solid, and there's no question he's happy about Penn State. But Ohio State was a school that Lavert was very excited about at one point in the process, too, and I'm not so sure Ohio State really pushed for Lavert that much early, even though he did earn an offer at Friday Night Lights after a great performance. But when you're Ohio State, you're sifting through so many great players right now that it's hard they're obviously in a great position, but difficult decisions are made every day, and I wouldn't be surprised if minds are changing every day. And you're talking about Lavert Hill goes out and runs 4.3 at a camp last month, and then runs 4.4 with a 4.1 shuttle over the weekend at the Nike camp. Gets invited to the opening. Maybe he's a guy that Ohio State could come back into play for, even though I know they landed Kareem Felder over the weekend, and obviously the class is filling up. But those are guys that could get interesting for.
No doubt. And you bring up Lavert Hill, and I think there was a prevailing feeling that, when James Franklin got to Penn State, they would start to maybe make some progress in Ohio State in the recruiting front. I think there was even greater expectation that Michigan and Jim Harbaugh would begin to threaten the Ohio State recruiting hold or dominance in the Big Ten. But it does seem like the team that is making the biggest move here is Michigan State. If you look at the guys that they have already got in their class and the guys they're in the mix for, I know Michigan State has enjoyed a lot of success on the field, winning 11 games for the past 5 years, but they now seem like they're recruiting at a higher level. I look at guys like they're in the mix for Josh King. They've already gotten a commitment from Messiah DeWeaver, quarterback out of Huber Heights, that I think would, in the Tressel era may have been an Ohio State quarterback. And, I said this many times to you off the air, Justin Lane would be a Buckeye, in my opinion, if Jim Tressel was still the coach. I'm in no way trying to denigrate Tressel here. I'm just saying, kind of getting to the point here, has Ohio State's, let's just say, increase in recruiting caliber, because that's simply what has happened when Urban has gotten here, has the collateral damage of that been building Michigan State into the real threat to Ohio State, both on the field and on the recruiting trail? I realize it's a long question, so I'll give you plenty of time here.
Sure. Well, the Urban Meyer machine, and I always say, I just want people to know that, Urban's a great head coach recruiter, but his team under him, his assistant coaches, they work hard, and the off-field team is the best in college football. They're built to finish with top-ranked recruiting classes, and they do that by recruiting nationally, and they can recruit nationally because the assistant coaches work so damn hard to build a relationship with high school coaches and kids and their families to get in the top 2 or 3 for these elite blue chippers. And so that means that sometimes Ohio State can't necessarily take a kid that they were going to get that's also a damn good player. So he's going to go somewhere else, and a lot of times in conference. And so, sure, that is going to benefit schools like Michigan and Michigan State and Penn State, but let's also give credit to those schools. Penn State is going to recruit at a high level because James Franklin if James Franklin wins a national championship, he is going to recruit at the same level as Urban Meyer. The difference is right now is that Urban and that machine, have a lot more experience with Heisman Trophy winners and high draft picks and national championships. And James Franklin's not there yet, but from just an energy standpoint and emphasis on being involved in the recruiting process and demanding your staff to be good at it and then having your staff work well together, James Franklin is got it going. And they're recruiting at a pretty darn good level for being 7-6 and playing less than 50 scholarship players coming off some sanctions. I think you got to tip the cap to Penn State there, and you look at them, I think they're an improving football team. That defense played hard. They were the last defense to give Ohio State hell, and they really did that with half a roster. And that Ohio State train was rolling, hit a speed bump in Happy Valley, won a tough night game on the road, and I even tweeted after the game, people expect you to win every game by 50. That was a good win for Ohio State. That Penn State team was ready to play. They played hard, and those are games that prepared Ohio State for Alabama because, that Penn State defense hit hard. And so when they got on the field against Alabama, they played against hard-hitting defenses. But Michigan State, they do things differently, and there's different ways to get to the finish line. They're slow. They're a slow process. They really, because they're not going to attract, for whatever reason, they're not attracting the elite blue chippers in the same capacity that the Ohio States and the SEC powers do. They can get 1 or 2 that are obviously really interested, or 5 or 6, but not 20 to 30 where you're just instantly in it and you're a finalist. So what Michigan State does to compensate for that is they evaluate well, and they find guys that are passionate about playing football, because there's a lot of good high school football players out there, and they're not all blue chippers. And Michigan State, they're looking for, their kind of deal is, we're not looking for the best junior in high school. We're looking for the guy that's going to be the best junior in college. So we're looking for they're looking for developmental guys that are passionate about playing football. So they go and see a kid 2 or 3 times, and that's how they can tell the difference between one 3-star and another. Like, all right, we went and saw these kids multiple times. We think this kid's got everything we're looking for from an off-field standpoint, developmental standpoint. His physical ceiling is a lot higher than this other young man, so they offer. And then obviously, in the same fashion that I think Mick Marotti's one of the best strength coaches in the country, and people don't talk about that enough, Ken Manny at Michigan State is right there with Mick Marotti. He's an absolute stud strength coach. And the strength coaches, they're the guys that are arguably the most important piece of the puzzle because, for one, they mold the toughness of your football team. They're with you year-round. And they're the guys that they can make you a tough football team with the workouts and just getting those guys to rally. And then they're also the guys that they bring your football team together because they're getting all 85 scholarship guys and the preferred walk-ons in there together. The strength coach can create that atmosphere that makes it a team deal. So it creates that great family atmosphere that when those players get to the assistant coaches, they're ready to rock. And I think that Michigan State and Ohio State have 2 of the best right there at that. But yeah, Michigan State, they're involved on some really good players right now because they've been very successful. Hell, they were arguably the second best team in college football last year. I know I said that several times on here, but I truly believe that. I'm not mad at them that they went out into Oregon and lost the early season game to when Mariota made a couple big plays that no other quarterback would have made. Michigan State blew some assignments in that game that cost them, but they were drilling Oregon for a lot of that game in Oregon. They just got away from it then, and then they lost to the Buckeyes in a night game at home. That was a great win for Ohio State. I'm not mad at Michigan State for losing that game. I think this year, those are my top 2 teams coming back this year. I know Vegas disagrees to a certain extent, but Michigan State, they're going to be damn good this year with what they're bringing back up front on both sides of the ball. That defensive line, very, very talented. And then you got a quarterback, Connor Cook, that's played a lot that I think is going to be pretty good. So those are my top 2 teams. And so recruits see the success. They see kids going in the first round for Michigan State. They have guys that are going to be projected first rounders in next year's draft. And then they've been successful. They win exciting bowl games. They're in the playoff hunt. They should be recruiting at a higher level. So, but when you look at Ohio, you look at Josh King would go to Josh King at Ohio State. My crystal ball would still be Ohio State for Josh King, the top 100 defensive end from Chicago, if Ohio State wasn't getting Nick Bosa and pretty much being done. So Ohio State's not going to be able to take 2. I think Austin Robertson and Josh King have a chance to be very, 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 very good college football players. But I like Terrell Hall and Nick Bosa better, and so that's where we're at. So Ohio State, they're going to get Terrell Hall, they're going to get Nick Bosa, and Michigan State may get Josh King and they may get Austin Robertson, and then let's develop them. You got 2 of the best strength coaches in the country. You got 2 of the best college football staffs in the country. It's exciting.
No doubt. And to summarize that brilliant soliloquy in Ohio State fashion, you're welcome, Michigan State. Steve, make sure you got plenty of sunscreen packed. Are you bringing the baby, or is this a honeymoon of sorts?
No, it's a wedding, so we'll be away from the little guy. He's going to get some time with his grandparents, and he took his first 2 steps yesterday. So
wow,
he might be running by the time we get back. So it's kind of sad to be leaving, but it's the first kid, so everything. I don't want to miss anything.
Have you got a little 40 set up for him so you can time him?
Well, we're hoping for Mom's athleticism. He'll have a better opportunity to go on in life and do something in those things. But hey, he's 10 months old. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, right?
No, Les. That's what we do. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful trip, and we'll talk to you when you're back.
Hey, take care. Appreciate it all, guys. We'll see you.